Doing the exact same push workouts can get pretty boring and can even stop working. Here are 6 variations on 3 core push movements that keep my chest and shoulders and triceps growing. Actually, I'm going to show you more than 6. I'm going to show you all the variations I use to help me keep forward momentum. And I think that options are helpful to keep your workout programming interesting and engaging and keep you motivated to keep coming back. Good morning. It is week 15, day 1, which is push day. I can't believe we're in week 15 already. There's only, including this week, only 6 weeks left in this cut. Our push day workout, our heavy push day workout is bench press, shoulder press, that's seated overhead shoulder dumbbell press, weighted dips, lateral raises, and tricep pushdowns. Today, I'm going to focus on some variations on some of these core push movements. Namely, we're going to look at bench, right? Regular bench press and some of the variations you can use to help grow different muscles and keep it interesting. We'll look at dips, and we will look at the overhead press, and we'll look at different ways that you can change up your programming. And as a bonus, this is a home gym, so these are all workouts that you should be able to do at home, provided you have somewhere to do bench press and you have maybe some free weights like dumbbells. As always, be sure to stick around to the end. Every day we do a check-in where we'll go over our weight for the day and our nutrition for the previous day. In this case, on Mondays, we go over the nutrition for the weekend. Also on Mondays, I do a physique update. So after the push workout, after I get my muscles moving and grooving a little bit, we'll get a physique update. We'll do some posing so that we can compare that week to week and see how our progress is coming. So that will be at the end. If you want, you can just fast forward to that if that's what you came here for. All right, let's get our first warm-up set. As always, what's our warm-up? You know it, say it with me. 2 sets at 50%, 1 set at 75%. We do 10 reps on the first 2, 6 to 8 on the third warm-up set. All right, let's dig right into our variations. I've got bench press, right? I've got it loaded up. That's what I'm warming up with. Everyone knows regular flat barbell bench press, right? While we're over here, I want to talk about a couple of variations that you can do here. I have done these in my past workouts, and so I'll maybe try and link to some of them or show some B-roll. The first variation that I love is pause bench press, right? All that, it's exactly what it sounds like. You get to the bottom of your rep and you pause for however long, 2 seconds, let's say. I do 2 seconds, and then you go up. You're going to find that you can do a lot less weight, and that it's a really good way to get over plateaus. Especially, have you ever noticed you get to the bottom and there's like that initial, you can get stuck, and doing these pause benches at the bottom will really help with that. The timing is another kind of thing that you can mess with. So a whole other category that I would group into one variation would be tempo variations. And so there are actually multiple different ways, right? So you can do 2 seconds down, 1 second up. You can do 1 second down, 2 seconds up. And doing these different types of tempo variations, stay there, bud, will again allow you to overcome certain weaknesses in your bench and hopefully overcome plateaus. Set 2, warm up. Not sure if I explicitly mentioned it. I mentioned narrow grip bench press. That variation works your triceps more. That's the goal. There's still some recruitment from your pecs and some other muscles, but it's a primarily tricep focus exercise. So don't use that to grow your chest, right? Use that as a variation that you can draw with on to as another tricep exercise, but it's a bench press variation. The next variation, I do this one all the time too, is an incline variation. And what's really interesting with the incline is you can actually do different varying levels. You can do a low incline at 15 degrees or a steeper incline at 30 degrees. 45 degrees is like almost, you can do it. You're really recruiting a lot of your shoulders once you get to 45 degrees or higher. But I think when most people, when they think of incline bench press, they're thinking of 30 degree, right? So you are still recruiting most of your chest, and it may work your upper chest more. So I love incline. The last kind of group of variations would be moving over to dumbbells and doing what we call unilateral, right? Your arms are independent of each other, they're not working together. So I love alternating flat bench press with barbell with flat bench press with dumbbells. I like to get that different variation of using all my muscles together and my core on one bar and going to more of a unilateral to make sure I'm not getting any imbalances, right? And then same thing, you can do incline variations. Obviously for dumbbells, you can do pause on dumbbells as well. I haven't really done that. That would probably be a good one to do, especially if you have any imbalances at that lower point. But one that's not necessarily a bench press variation, another tricep thing you can do is just laying on the flat bench and doing the dumbbell push. And that would be a narrow grip equivalent, I think, for when it comes to dumbbell bench press. And all that is like you have a dumbbell, you lay back and you push it up like this, right? So same kind of pushing mechanism while you're flat on your back, but you're using a dumbbell instead of a barbell. All right, last warm-up set. Let's go. Now, my channel is all about breaking away from the complexity of fitness and trying to make things simple. So please don't hear all these variations. How am I going to fit these in? Which one is best? How do I do it? If you're just getting started, I would just focus on the basics. Just stick with flat bench, barbell bench press. I'm intermediate to advanced and I still program it, right? I still do it. The reason is it works, right? So don't feel like you have to be changing it up all the time. I'm offering this video as a way, more of like an outlet for people who have been doing maybe the same workout for months and months or years and years, and they're getting bored. And I just want to expose these other options, especially because I do think it's important to slightly vary your program every 8 to 12 weeks. And not like big, massive changes, but for me, the big thing I will do is I'll switch from barbell bench press, and then I'll switch back over to dumbbell bench press. In fact, if you've been following this cut, that's exactly what I did. When I started it, I was doing dumbbell bench press, and then halfway through, I switched over to barbell bench press. Variations don't need to be overly complicated. They just need to help break you out of plateaus and help give you a mental break and relieve boredom. All right, first set of our working weight. We've got 260 loaded. If you have watched the last few weeks, I went up to 265, but I haven't been able to do that for 3 sets of 4 yet. So I'm gonna move to 260, see if I can earn it here. Oh shit, guys, I get distracted sometimes when I'm talking to you. I forgot to put the weights on both sides, and you were probably like, look, maybe you saw it in the background. I don't know if it's too shadowy back there. You might have seen it, like watching a car wreck happen. Look at this. I even put on the 2.5 pound. I just forgot to put on the 25. Jesus. Get your head in the game, Wallace. Gotta reset, refocus here. Alright, got it. Well, in the workout here, I'm still on bench press, but I'll move on for time to our other exercise movements. The next one I want to talk about is dips and our variations of that. When you start out with dips, you probably start out with body weight, and I do recommend that. Just do your dips body weight. Do that until you can consistently get well over 10. If you can get to 15 or 20, that's the point at which I would introduce the first variation, which is weighted dips, right? That's what is going to allow you to do progressive overload. If you try to do progressive overload with body weight alone, especially while you're in a cut and you're losing weight, you're just going to be adding an insane amount of reps, especially as you get stronger. So highly recommend getting a belt. You guys have seen this before. Get a belt that you can attach weights to, and this is a really easy thing I'll demonstrate, I guess. Belt goes on the waist, right? And there are lots of different kinds of belts. This is just one I got on eBay at one point. And then you've got this little strap here, and you put on your weights through, and you clip it. And now I am 10 pounds heavier, right? So that's the first variation I would recommend for dips. All right, second set of bench press, 260 pounds. Let's get 4 of these again. Hold on a second. All right, sorry, my son was trying to sneak in here while I was working out, and it's just not a good idea. So, back at second set. Whew. I'll tell you what, last set's gonna be hard. Next dip variation after you move on to weighted dips and you're doing progressive overload, meaning you set a rep range 8 to 12. Once you get to the upper bound of 12, you add weight and go down to the lower bound, back to 8. So if I'm doing 10 pounds, I get 12 reps. I add another, 5 pounds. So now I'm at 15 pounds and I go back down to 8 reps, work my way back up to 12. This is called double progression for progressive overload. After you're doing that, or maybe even before you're doing that, you might think about whether you're emphasizing your triceps or your chest when it comes to dips. And the way that you do that is simply to emphasize your triceps, try to remain upright as you're pushing. And if you want more chest, you will lean forward. Not like way over, but like 30 degrees is what people recommend. And then you can flare your elbows out a little bit. If you want to emphasize triceps, try to remain upright. Maybe don't flare your elbows as much. I try to use it as a tricep exercise. Do I bend a little bit? Do I flare a little bit? Probably. But I would say this, where you feel the stimulus and the tension, that is what dictates what the exercise is. Not 100% what your form looks like. So I may look like my elbows are flaring. I may be bending over a little bit, but I am actively trying to fight against that. And I am feeling it. Most importantly, I'm feeling it in my triceps when I do my dips. So I use dips as a tricep exercise. You can certainly use them as a chest exercise as well. All you have to, your positioning in your form is really what dictates it. All right, folks, let's get this last set of bench press. We're shooting for 4. We want to get 4. We've got 2 sets of 4 that we've done. Let's get it. Woo. Got it. One thing I didn't really mention that you can vary is your rep scheme. On bench press, especially with barbell, flat bench press, I like to shoot for powerlifting rep scheme of 4 to 6. And I just do that because I enjoy lifting heavy things and it just shortens the workout just a tiny bit. But the 6 to 8 rep range is great for hypertrophy. 8 to 10 or 8 to 12, also great. So with that, I just say do what makes you happy. Do what you want. Obviously, doing more reps means less weight, so there's a little bit less risk for injury and that sort of thing. But so if you ever wonder why I only do 4 to 6 on bench press, that's why. But when I go over to dumbbell unilateral, I bump it up. I think usually in that 8 to 12 range so that I can do a little less weight, but still get a good stimulus and not have as much risk. Plus, man, just throwing around heavier dumbbells is a lot harder than working with heavier bench. All right, we've got seated overhead dumbbell press. I should have talked about the second. I could still if I went back and edited, but we'll finish talking about the tricep or the dip variations, and then we'll come back and talk about these. All right, so the last group of dip variations, just like with bench press, you can do tempo type things, right? So same kind of principle where you can lower yourself slow, go up fast. So 1001, 1002, 1001 would be a good tempo. 2 down, 1 up. That would be a slow eccentric or slow concentric, I guess. For triceps, it would be eccentric. You're stretching your triceps, and then you're tensing them to push up. So you can do it the opposite way, where it's a fast down and a slow concentric push. You can do just a regular, but focus on an explosive concentric. And then you can also pause, right? If you're trying to overcome some kind of plateau, you can pause at the bottom. So that would be the last variation. And it's really multiple variations. It would just be tempo variations on dips. All right, next set of overhead presses. We got 10 on the first one. It's really interesting. On my moderate push day, I do these as well. And whatever my movement is before, I can't remember, incline bench maybe or something, I can't do as many reps. After doing regular bench press and then going straight into these, I can do more reps than what I do on the moderate push day. It's just an interesting tidbit. Yeah, so overhead presses. Variations here. Well, I'll just start with the one that I'm doing. So my ceilings are really low, so I can't really do a standing overhead press, at least not with weights on the bar. So I'm relegated to the seated variation. And I like doing it with dumbbells for the unilateral aspect of that, but I have also done seated overhead press with a barbell as well. It's not a whole lot different, right? The only difference is I have to move my bench around, or I have to put the back support down, and that's another variation within this. You can do back supported or not back supported. I can't move my bench back any further the way it is, so again, I'm kind of relegated to doing, if I wanted to do this, to get the barbell up on the supports, I have to put the back support down so I can scoot back, and then it's just the same principle. Instead of the dumbbells, it's the barbell, right? A great workout. I love it. It is a little bit harder for me to set up in my home gym, so I don't do it a ton. So I would say first variation of overhead press. When most people think of overhead press, let me just see if I can stand up and do this at all. When most people think of overhead press, they think of the standing version, right? And I can, if I'm touching the ceiling with the bar by doing that, right? So that would be what most people think of overhead press. Standing with a barbell. First variation is to just sit down, right? So you can do barbell bench press, barbell overhead press, seated. First variation from that is whether you have the back support up or down. And then the next variation would be to move to dumbbells. And same thing, you could do back supported or no back support. And while we're here, I'll just say the last variation would be the Arnold dumbbell press. And the only difference in that is that it has a little extra movement in it. I've talked about it before. You actually start out supinated as if you were curling, and you move up to pronated, meaning palms facing me at the bottom. I twist on the way up, palms facing out on the way up. I'll just show you one of those reps real quick. Supinated, pronated, and you do that. And I would normally probably do it with a little lighter weight than when I do these. Let me catch my breath, and then we'll do the next set of the actual workout. All right, last set of our overhead presses. See if I can get 10. I don't know. It was hard to get 10 on the last one. Plus, I just did some demoing with some real weight in between sets. I'll just leave it there for today. So I'm not a die-hard push-pull legs person. I do prefer push-pull leg workouts, but whatever floats your boat, right? If you want to do bro split and hit individual muscle groups, great. If you want to do full body, that's great. We're good. We're all doing the same exercises at the end of the day. When you look at the week, the goal is that our volume for each muscle group ends up being the same. That's the goal, right? With these different splits. So don't get caught up too much in that. I've categorized today as best push workouts because I do a push-pull leg split. Today is my push day. But you could just as easily categorize this as chest exercises or tricep exercises or shoulder exercises, because that's really what it comes down to. Those are the muscle groups that are being hit. Obviously, bench press is targeting chest the most, but even within our bench press variations, we mentioned the close grip bench press, which targets the triceps. We talked about overhead press. Obviously, that's going to be mainly shoulders, and the variations of that are going to determine how much core and back you use for stabilizing. I forgot to mention a variation for overhead bench press, and that is the push press, which is just an overhead press with some lower body momentum. That's really great for overloading. I actually really love push press because you can do more weight and you get more of your body into it, so it's really fun. That's using more of your body, right? That's using your shoulders, of course, but it's also engaging your chest, your core, your triceps. And as we talked about with dips, one of the biggest distinctions in the different variation of dip that you can do is whether you're targeting chest or triceps. So all that to say, I like push-pull split, and I've categorized all these workouts into them being push movements, but the actual muscles targeted can change depending on the variation that you're doing. So keep that in mind. And as we go throughout this week, I will probably do my favorite variations for the other days, meaning pull and legs. So be sure to like and subscribe to the channel so you can be alerted when those videos come out later this week. All right, I've got my 50, 67, I've got my 80 pounds loaded, ready for my first set of dips. I'm going to take the active tracking off because it will lose me. It's not smart enough to know when my head is turned. And like I said, I try to target my triceps, but I certainly don't have perfect form, and I wouldn't probably be able to do this much weight if I had perfect tricep dip form. But here we go. Whoa. I took off that belt so I can demonstrate this a little bit. So when we talk about upright, we're talking about, right, a little bit of forward lean is okay. When we talk about forward lean, we're talking about this, right? Like, and hopefully if you've done these tricep stuff before, you can feel a difference. You're certainly going to be engaging both your chest and your tricep a little bit each. But the difference, right, between this and this is going to be quite substantial. And you can't really see. Let me bring this over here so you can see it here. It's really hard to avoid any flaring, but ideally, right, the more narrow you can keep, the more tricep you get, and the more flaring you do with the elbow and along with forward lean, the more chest, right? And word of caution with all this: if you ever feel like pain in your shoulders, that can be common with dips. If you have past injury or if you overdo it, listen to your body. Stop doing them. I don't have that. I've done them enough, I guess, and I haven't had any shoulder injuries significant enough to cause that. So both variations are kind of fine for me. I think maybe the leaning forward can cause a little bit more. I'm not sure whether one variation or the other causes more significant stress on your shoulders, but just be mindful of it. My time is up. I need to do my next set, but I also need to rest a little bit because that was body weight, but it was not nothing. Showing you guys that. All right, I'm back. Let's see if I can get any reps now with this. This 80 pounds feels a lot heavier than 0 pounds. Seeing as I get tired, I tend to lean forward more and flare a little bit more, but at the end of the day, guys, this is where I'm feeling it. Right there, right in those triceps. All right, let's get this last set of our dips. We did 9 on the first, 8 on the second. Let's shoot for 8 here. I have no idea how fatigued I am. Let's see. You know, if I wanted, I could move my arms up. This Y thing comes out a little bit like that, so I could. Obviously, if the more out I am, the wider my arms are. The more forward I go, the narrower. So theoretically, that would work the triceps more. But as I said at the end of the last set, I am definitely feeling this in my triceps quite a bit. So I don't necessarily feel a compulsion or a need to make it harder. We'll just go with our regular progressive overload. All right, here we go. I have no idea what that looked like. Hopefully that didn't show me getting all the way forward and flaring my arms, using my chest all the way. Like I said, the stimulus speaks for itself. That was mostly triceps. Certainly engaged the pec some, but mostly triceps. Now, obviously, there is more to push day than just these 3 core lifts. I just picked my favorite, honestly, guys. I picked bench, dips, and overhead presses because those are my favorite. I feel like those are the ones that I would program every week or every routine if I could. And I try to do that by using the different variations. But there are other exercises we're about to do, side lateral raises or flies, whatever you want to call them. But there are also dumbbell flies where you're laying on your back. It also works your chest and counts. I think at the end of the workout, we have tricep pushdowns. There's skull crushers. There are other, overhead tricep extensions. There are tons of other push workouts that you can do. And I encourage looking and seeing which ones work for you, what equipment you have, and sprinkling them in with these core lifts that I've mentioned already. The key fundamental of programming a good push day is that you're not just working one muscle group though, right? So if you're only doing bench press and then leaning forward dips that work your chest and push-ups and dumbbell flies, well, you are only working your chest. That's no longer, in my opinion, a push split. That has become a bro split. That has become a chest day. So I do think if you're going to adhere to a push-pull leg split, you should make sure that you're incorporating plenty of shoulders and triceps, meaning push downs, close grip bench, tricep dips, overhead press. We're about to do some side lateral raises, Arnold bench press, standing, like, what do you call them? Handstand push-ups. Those are great great shoulder workouts too. So again, and I'm not trying to complicate things. I just want to try to make it simple. If you stick to a push-pull legs, don't make it overly complicated by focusing on one muscle group. Make it simple by focusing on the push movement, things that fall into a push day. Hopefully that helps. And if not, ask in the comments, because I have had people question whether my push day is a chest day or not in the past. And this is what I'd say. It's the push movement, and it's going to be mainly these muscle groups. All right, let's get our side lateral raises. I've got 20 pounds in each hand, 12 reps. Here we go. By the way, if you are curious what my current push-pull leg routine is, post in the comments. I think I can export it from the Heavy app, and you can see exactly what I'm doing. It's a 5-day split. I do a heavy push day on Monday, a heavy pull day on Tuesday. I do a moderate push on Wednesday. I do legs on Thursday, and a moderate pull on Friday. So it's not your typical push-pull legs, where if you wanted to hit each routine twice in a week, that you have to do 6 days, and you do push-pull legs in that order every time. I modified it so that I can do a heavy pull day where I'm doing deadlifts and maybe some other posterior chain stuff. I'm incorporating my legs on the heavy pull day, and I don't have to go straight into a leg day. I give myself a buffer with that moderate push day so that I can come into leg day with clean, fresh legs. But then the moderate push day is exactly as it sounds. I'm not doing my heavy bench press. I'm just doing kind of lower weight, higher rep range type push exercises on Wednesday, and then the same thing, moderate pull on Friday. So that's the overview. If you want to know what the actual splits and the actual exercises are, let me know. I'm happy to post that. All right, let's get our second set of lateral raises. All right, so that wraps it up for our topic on variations on bench press, overhead press, and dips. If I didn't cover something that you were expecting, let me know. Obviously, this wasn't a comprehensive variations list. These were just the most common ones that I reach for when I'm programming. Obviously, this is limited to my equipment too, so if you go to an actual public gym or a private gym where you have different machines and stuff, the variations abound, right? Because you have all the machine variations of these along with the free weight variations that I mentioned. Even within my ecosystem and my equipment, if there is something that you're surprised I didn't cover, please let me know. I'm not aware of it, or maybe I have a reason that I left it out. Let's talk. If this was helpful, as always, subscribe, please. It really helps me out. And stick around. We've got one more set of lateral raises. We've got tricep pushdowns, and we will do our daily check-in, or we'll talk about our weight. We'll talk about the trend of our weight and how we are on track or not on track to meet our goal. We'll talk about the calories over the weekend. And then we will, at the end, do a physique update. All right, last set of lateral raises. Here we go. All right, let's get some tricep pushdowns. 90 pounds, shooting for, looks like we did 10 and then 8. So let's see what we can get. Whew. 10. All right, let's do our daily check-in. Is this recording? Yeah. So we weighed in at 185.5 this morning, which is a good start for this week. If we go back to last week, we averaged 187.1. So, and if you watched any of the videos from last week, I was kind of freaking out because Monday through Thursday, I was way higher than what I should be. The only thing I can think of, guys, I had chicken noodle soup every day. I had a lot of chicken noodle soup, and it's just water and sodium. There's chicken, right, for the protein, but I think it's just a lot of extra water and sodium that week. That's the only thing I can think of. I don't know. Maybe you have ideas. You can look at my check-ins from each day. You can see exactly what I ate. You tell me if I'm wrong. The weight finally came down at the end of the week, over the weekend. Got down to 186.3 and then 185.3 yesterday. and then up to 185.5 today. So if we're going on our static weekly averages, we're on track for a pretty good weight loss this week, as long as we can stay in that 185 range. But if you have seen my past video on moving averages, exponentially weighted moving averages, you'll know that I've been creating my own algorithm, and then I've been using macro factor, and you can see it's trying to keep me honest. It's saying your average isn't actually 187 or 185. Your average is still 188, like your smooth average. You can see the light purple line are my actual weigh-ins, and the dots are smooth adjusted. So it doesn't overreact to big fluctuations up or big fluctuations down. So right now it's still treating my weigh-ins this weekend. I'm not sure if I actually believe you. Looking at your trend from the past 7 days, I think we'll start angling down a little bit, but we're not going to quite meet you all the way. So it would take quite a few days of being at that lower weight for the trend to start coming down. So it's an interesting concept. It kind of helps keep you honest. It doesn't make you think that you've made more progress than you have when you've lost a bunch of water weight. But at the same time, when you have higher calorie day or a high sodium or carb day, it doesn't punish you and say you've messed up. Your weekly average is not where it should be. It's slow to adjust upward or downward, which I like. And it's saying that my 7-day decrease is about 1.2 pounds, which is fine. I think with metabolic adaptation, 2/3 of the way through a 20-week cut, I think that's fine. We're not quite hitting 2 pounds a week anymore. And that happens. So anyway, so that's enough about the weight. It's not stopped recording. Let's go to our calories and nutrition so you can see. Yesterday was higher calorie for me. We've been snowed in this weekend, so I just really struggle to not snack all day. That being said, I kept under my maintenance calories, which, when I first started, the cut was 2,900, and now it's saying it's like 2,500. So even if it's 2,500 with metabolic adaptation, I still stayed under that. Decent amount of protein, almost 200 grams, not quite. Protein bar in the morning. Lunch, not too bad. It's orange, David bar. Goldfish has been killing me. I've been just like grabbing goldfish. This is probably even low. So maybe I did go over my TDEE if you count all of the handfuls of goldfish. Some Greek yogurt, beef snack, sea salt popcorn, apple, another protein bar. Venison chili for dinner, handful of oyster crackers for that, handful of grapes, another protein bar, a chocolate bar earlier in the day, another beef mini stick, an orange, and then 2 chocolates at night. So you can see this is not typical for me, right? I don't have 3 little chocolate bars normally. I don't have 3 chocolate protein bars during the day. So not my best day. Saturday was decent. It was around 2,000. It's going to tell a similar story where I had some adherence breakdown. 188 grams of protein to 2,000 calories. Still not too bad as far as protein to calories, but you can see there's this mini chewy chocolate chip thing in there. Thin slice of pizza, frozen pizza. And then at dinner, I tried to make up for it. I had a super lean, high protein dinner, but then snacks all over the place. So going back to last week, it was fine. 1,700, 1,600, 1,500, 1,700. But this weekend, I kind of came undone. So I'm actually surprised that my weigh-in this morning was still low. We'll see how that holds up. I'm going to try and get back on the wagon of adhering to my 1,500 to 1,600 calories today. And we'll see how it goes. Stay tuned for one more tricep pushdown and the physique update. All right, last workout of the day. Yeah, got 10, but it's probably just because I talked really long in the update. Probably more than a 2 minute break